And as always, you can ask anonymous questions if you choose to not identify yourself. So let's go ahead and get started with this webinar. And I thought what we would do today is to start with what I called a thought draining activity. So before I say more on that, can you go ahead and get a small piece of paper, just a small piece of scrap paper that you may have lying around the house, and a pen. So I often use something, my art projects that my kids do, and we're gonna write on the back of this. So grab a piece of paper and a pen, and just take a small section of this paper out. So just a small piece right here. So here's the invitation for you all. So given that we all have a lot going on in any given day, the invitation today, as we start this practice, is to just write down one thought that has preoccupied you of late. Just write down one thought on this piece of paper. You don't need to do too much detail, no stories, just simply jot down a sentence or two that allows you to get it out on the paper. No one needs to see this. I'm not going to ask for a share. So just whatever is preoccupying you. And once you have it written, perhaps go ahead and use the chat button or just a hand button that says you're done, so that I know that you're done writing that thought. Just one thought. And once you're done, raise your hands, let us know. And so here's the invitation now. Once you have done that, just go ahead and rip up the paper. The thought draining activity, just as a symbolic gesture of draining this thought or series of thoughts that preoccupy us, allowing yourself this space to commit to this present moment. So just taking a moment or two to rip up that paper and put it on the side. And this invitation to commit and come back to this present moment. And with this intention of committing to the present moment, be aware of the lengthening of your spine, how your buttocks are supported by the seat of the chair, how your head is resting on your neck, and noticing the top of the head, the back, the side of the head. Be aware of your face and the muscles and the bones of your face and behind the face. And now scanning down the front of the face and down into the throat and the neck, down the sides of the neck, into the muscle and the tissue, going to the shoulder joints, noticing what you notice about any sensations that may be present for you there, and scanning down to inhabit it fully and intimately as you can. Your arms, your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, and through all the bones of the hands, the fingers, and the fingernails, each of your fingers, the tops and the undersides, the spaces between the fingers and the palms, and bringing your attention, this attention that you have been so gently cultivating, and bringing it back now to the upper chest, into and through the upper chest, the upper lungs, the upper body, slowly scanning down the back body, seeing whatever is here to be seen, and aware of whatever sensations are here to be experienced, not fighting them, just feeling and seeing the sensations, moving into the backside of the body, through the ribs and the frontal organs, and now to the front body, noticing how the upper chest responds to your breath, the left side of your ribs, the right side of your ribs, and going deeper and deeper into the areas of the diaphragm, the stomach, the belly, the lower back, and down into the pelvic bone, the hip joints. Very kind attention. And down through the legs, the upper legs, the knees, the kneecaps and the knee joints, coming down to the shins and the calves, the ankles, your heels, and all through the foot, both your feet, and going down, way, way down to the bottom of the feet. And maybe if you're able to, going further down to the earth below, just building kind of a connection, just going as down, down, down as you can, having a little bit more of a present sense of the body as we are sitting here grounded, feeling connected to the earth below us, your body as a whole, breathing in this moment, all of this space around the body sitting here, the space in front, behind, and to the left, and to the right, and above. Just breathing here. And now, gathering your attention back to the felt sense of the breath. And for just a few cycles, let's do what we call the 5-5-7 formula relaxation breath. In here, we will be inhaling to a slow count of 5, then suspend at the top, closing off the back of the throat for a count of 5, and then just let the breath release to a longer count of 7. So let's do this 3 times at your own pace. 5, 5, 7. Inhaling, holding to a count of 5, and then just releasing to a count of 7. Inhaling, holding, and exhaling to a count of 7. One last time. And just exhaling. And then just give yourself over to your natural breath with intention and as best as you're able to, keeping your attention on the rising feeling of the inhalation, releasing, and following the exhalation all the way out. Distractions arise. Distractions of all sorts arise, as you know by now. Just seeing the distraction as a distraction, potentially an energetic thought, feeling, or emotion. But for now, let's just invite the breath to be the center focus of our meditation practice for just a little bit longer before we shift here. Seeing what comes up that interferes with the focus on following the breath, and just let it be. Let it go. No need to make a big deal out of it. We certainly don't need to get hooked by it. We see what arises, see what compulsions surround it, and just let it all go. Gently, but firmly, coming back to following the breath for some more moments. A good thing to remind ourselves of over and over again is just to relax, settle in with your breath in this moment. Let go of any struggling. Let go of any trying. Now, to just shift our attention a slight bit, one of the assignments that I had invited participants who were here last week to engage in, and no big deal if you were not here, because we'll repeat that right now, was just to attend to experiencing, noticing, and observing pleasant events. So what we will do now is we will get to your experiences. So let's take a few moments to revisit. So the invitation for you all here is to select one pleasant event, focusing on the physical sensations, the emotions, and thoughts as they arise in memory, and as they arise in this present moment. So any pleasant moment that comes to mind for you, perhaps wondering if there were any pleasant moments that you experienced when you did either the body scan or the sitting meditation practice. Just being curious about what qualities in all of those pleasant moments or events caused them to be labeled as pleasant by you. What did you notice? And if you're so inclined, inviting you all to now open your eyes. And if you feel comfortable in sharing, just go ahead and type it in the chat message in terms of what showed up for you. What did you notice when you were invited to focus on one pleasant event a day, or even in this practice? Were there any attitudinal qualities that supported you in being more present for pleasant moments? We had someone share that as they were petting their cat, they felt the pleasantness just with the sheer tactile sensation. What a beautiful moment, right? Another person noticed that they were laughing with their wife in bed before they went to sleep. It felt spontaneous. It felt warm and connected. Smelling lilacs in bloom, playing family games, noticing the breeze when you're outside, feeling the earth hold me while laying down on the mat. Somebody else commented, and I can relate to this, their son telling them that they would miss their nightly walks once the pandemic was over. Another person watched a baby bunny hopping around in mulch and gave them a peaceful feeling. Somebody's daughter graduated this Sunday. Congratulations. Just enjoying the feeling of being with their family and listening to them. Thank you all for sharing. And really, the point of this exercise, this homework assignment, was to see if we can find beauty in the simple moments of life. Oftentimes, and especially during these times when this pandemic is really taking over our lives, we're waiting for the future events when we open up, when we go back to our regular normal, to feel the joy, to feel happiness. But sometimes if we intentionally commit to being just present, we can notice the beauty around us. We can notice that there are so many pleasant moments, but we just need to be present for them. We just need to show up for them. There's a beautiful quote from Rumi that I found this week, and it says, "Beauty surrounds us, but usually we need to be walking in a garden to know it. We wait for big milestones, but here we are, so many of your shares, just the simple things, just a simple breeze." I noticed that 2 days ago when it was sunny outside, just sitting outside and feeling the sun on my face, having simple conversations, but present conversations with family members can be pleasant. And I know there's not this homework assignment for this coming week, but just having the intention to show up, to pleasant events can really serve us. So thank you for engaging with me with this. And with that note, I realize that we've been sitting for too long, especially on a webinar where we're doing mindful movements. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have Megan come on board, and she's going to lead us through a 15-minute mindful yoga practice. She'll give you some instructions, but everything is going to be on the chair, so we don't need to be getting on the mat. But what I invite you to do is to just make sure you have plenty of space around you to be able to engage in chair yoga movements. So I'm going to turn off my camera, and Megan's going to start her camera.
Hello. So as we move into mindful yoga, we are going to find ourselves in our seat. You may even start by grabbing a small blanket or towel if you have one available to place behind your back for a little bit of extra support.
Megan, your voice is echoing.
And so we'll go ahead and take our seat. And so before we get started, I'd like to make a couple of notes. The first being that I cannot see anyone's posture. The invitation is to listen to your own body, to trust in your own ability, to know your own limitations, that maybe each posture may not, to know how deeply to go into a posture. So I'm going to entrust you to know your own limitations. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll also be repeating each posture 3 times. The first time will be in more detail where I explain more of the posture. The following 2 times we'll move a little more quickly to match the pacing of our breath. So to begin, go ahead and I invite you to take your seat. Perhaps you rest your hands on your thighs and just gently close your eyes. And we'll take a big breath in through your nose. And exhale out your mouth. And I invite you to notice your breath in this moment. Perhaps you notice the quality of your breath. Whether the breath feels shallow, or perhaps the breath feels full and deep. Also noticing where you feel your breath most. Perhaps you feel the breath in the nostrils, or maybe in the throat, chest, or maybe you feel it deep in the low belly. No matter where you feel the breath, just allowing it to be just where it is. Welcoming in an attitude of acceptance of the breath in its present state. Maybe you notice the pacing of your breath. Perhaps you had a busy morning and the breath is moving quickly. Or perhaps the breath is moving slowly. And again, no judgment. Whatever is there is there. So with this in mind, I invite you to open your eyes back into the light of the room. And from here, we'll find some very subtle shoulder movements. We'll start by rolling the shoulders up towards the ears. And then as you exhale, allow them to roll back and down, releasing any tension on the exhale. Repeating 2 more times. Inhale, shoulders towards the ears. Exhale, softly release them down. Inhale them up. Exhale, roll them back down. And now I'll ask and invite you to tip your head to the right. Think right ear over right shoulder, keeping the shoulders nice and soft. Maybe you already notice sensations through the left side of the neck. And then from here, we're going to roll our head towards the back of the room, moving as slowly as we need, noticing any sensations that come with the movement. Rolling our head to the left, slowly bringing chin towards the chest, continuing all the way around, noticing if any pieces of the neck feel maybe tight or tense. Perhaps the neck feels relaxed. Just noticing what's there. Gently bringing your head back to center. Now tipping the head to the left, left ear over left shoulder. Feeling any sensation through the right side of the neck. Soft shoulders. Gently rolling the head towards the back of the room, over towards the right. And again, noticing any sensations, bringing chin towards the chest, and continuing to circle to the left. Maybe noticing any changes in sensation from rolling in one direction to the other. Just allowing a raw perception of any sensation that you feel without labeling good or bad. And then gently bringing your head back to center. And from here, I'll invite you to take your right hand and either grip the outside edge of your chair, perhaps you have an armrest, just for a little bit of support. And from here, we'll inhale our left arm straight up to the sky, growing really tall through the torso, reaching the crown of the head up towards the sky. The shoulders are soft. Inhale, grow even taller. And then as you exhale, just gently reach up and over to the right. Keep the heart lifted and open. Think of pouring weight into the left sit bone. Noticing any thoughts that may arise as we hold. Thoughts of whether this posture we like or don't like. And just noticing what we notice. Inhale to center, reaching both arms to the sky. And as you exhale, bringing the left hand to grip either the armrest or the outside of the chair. Inhale, grow very tall, reaching the crown of the head up. Exhaling gently over to the left. Again, keeping the shoulders soft, the heart is open to the front of the room. And just noticing if the mind has already wandered, no problem. Just gently bring the mind back to this body in this moment. Inhale, both arms back to center, repeating 2 more times on each side. Exhaling, right hand down. Inhaling to grow tall. Exhale over to the right. Allowing the body to move with the breath, Inhaling back to center. Exhaling, left hand down, right arm reaches up and over to the left. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, right hand down, left arm up and over to the right. One last time, inhale, center. Exhale, left arm down, right arm up and over to the left. Inhale, back to center, and gently release the hands down to the top of the legs. So from here, we're going to move into a twist. So I'll invite you to take your right hand and again, just gently grip either the outside edge of your chair or perhaps the armrest if you have one. And then bring the left hand to the top of right knee. We'll inhale to grow tall first. And then as we exhale, just gently twist the heart open to the right without forcing or pushing the body in any way. And maybe you notice how the breath changes in this posture. Perhaps the quality of the breath has changed. Inhale here and exhale back to center. Moving to the left, bringing left hand to grip the outside edge of the chair or the armrest. Right hand to left knee. Inhale, nice and tall. Exhale, gently twist the heart open to the left. Again, no pushing or bullying of the body into a deeper twist, but just allowing it to feel natural. And maybe you notice that the breath shifts where you feel the breath in this posture, or how deep the breath feels. And again, without judgment or expectation, just noticing the breath. Inhale, and gently exhale back to center. 2 more times each side. Bringing right hand to the chair, left hand, right knee. Inhale up, exhale, twist right. Inhale here, exhale, center. Left hand to the chair, right hand to left knee. Inhale, tall. Exhale, twist left. Inhale. Exhale, release center. One last time, right hand to the chair, left hand to right knee. Inhale, tall. Exhale, softly twist the heart open. Inhale. Exhale, center. Left hand to the chair, right hand to left knee. Inhale, tall. Exhale, twist the heart to the left. Inhale. Exhale, back to center. Now from here, I'll invite you to extend your right foot straight forward. I'm going to lift my foot up a little bit higher so that you can see, but I'm flexing my foot. My toes are reaching to the sky, and the heel is reaching towards the wall in front of me. And so we'll bring our hands for a little support underneath our thigh, so you can find a clasp underneath your thigh, and just gently bring the knee in towards the chest if this is feasible for you. Maybe making some small circles with the knees to help loosen the hip joint. And then as you feel ready, we'll bring the right ankle to rest on the top of left knee, letting the right knee gently fall open. We're not pushing or forcing the knee open, but just allowing it to relax. This might be just where you stay, but perhaps you rest your hands on your legs or perhaps grip the edges of the chair. We'll inhale nice and tall. And then as we exhale, we'll gently bring the heart forward. Doesn't have to be a big movement to feel it through that right hip. Maybe noticing any emotions or thoughts that arise as a function of finding yourself here in this posture. Softening any tension that you may feel. Inhale back up to center. And as we exhale, we'll bring the heart forward once again. Inhale, center. Exhale, forward. Inhale, back to center. Finding that clasp under the leg to release it back down to the floor. Now moving to the left leg. Extending the left foot straight forward. Toes are reaching towards the sky. The heel is reaching to the wall in front of you. Finding that clasp with your hands underneath the thigh and just gently hugging that knee in towards the chest. Maybe finding some wiggles, some circles with the knees to help loosen the hip joint. And then as you feel ready, bringing the left ankle to the top of right knee, and then letting the left knee softly fall open. Again, no pushing or pressing. Gripping the edges of the chair, we'll inhale nice and tall. Exhale, gently bring the heart forward. Again, doesn't have to be a big movement. Letting the spine grow nice and long. Letting the gaze fall towards the floor. Noticing any thoughts that may arise. Trying this posture from one side to the other. Maybe noticing differences or preferences that we may have. Inhale the torso up. Exhale, bring the torso forward. Inhale the torso up. Exhale the torso forward. Inhale the torso back up, bringing our hands to find that clasp underneath the leg. Gently bringing it in and then releasing the left foot down. Placing the hands back to the top of the legs, letting the eyes softly close for a moment. Take a big inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh it out. Perhaps noticing how the breath has changed since the beginning of this mindful yoga. And perhaps no change, and that's okay too. Gently opening your eyes back to the light of the room. And now I'll transition back to Dr. Prakash, where she'll talk about why we practice mindful yoga. Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that 15-minute mindful yoga practice. And I apologize if the sound was not good on your end. It was definitely breaking up on my end. And one thing that reminded me of was the story that I heard that there was this one mindfulness instructor who, after he had been training his participants for about 4 or 5 weeks, towards the end of the 2-hour practice, basically would get a dump truck and have it back in its parking lot so that people could hear that irritating noise of that dump truck. And then the idea was to work with the frustrations that show up. And as we've discovered in the last 2 webinars, these online platforms are great resources for bringing up various frustrations. The sound's not working, the main facilitator's computer crashes. So perfect opportunities to work with the frustrations that show up. When it started for me, I started noticing that I was being caught up with these stories. I wonder how it's working for the participants. I wonder if they could hear them. And then just invited myself to let go of that and come back to the present moment and just be with the movements. So I hope that you all were able to do that as well. And one thing that I want to do now, a question that I often get is, why do we do mindful movements in a program like that? What's the purpose of this? So I have for you right now a video, which I hope would work this time around, for what are the reasons for us engaging in mindful yoga practices. So I'm going to play this about 8-minute long video, and then we're going to open up the webinar for Q&A. Teaching on mindful yoga, adapted from John Kabat-Zinn. So in a few moments, we're going to proceed with mindful yoga. The question that I always get is, why do we do stuff like this in a mindfulness-based stress reduction program? Why would mindful movement be in this program offering? Mindful yoga, according to John Kabat-Zinn, is a specific attitude and attentional stance that we bring to our practice, both on the mat and in daily life. And that is a refined moment-to-moment, non-judgmental, non-striving attending to the entire range of our experience. So there are many reasons to engage in mindful yoga, and I'd like to highlight a few. First, through mindful yoga, we are continuing to learn to inhabit our bodies as opposed to our thinking minds. As you all have likely experienced by now, so much of our lives are spent in our minds, planning, worrying, ruminating, and more planning. Mindful yoga is an invitation to take this awareness that you have been cultivating, developing, this present moment awareness, and bring it back to the bare sensations of your body. The primary focus in here will be on inhabiting the various poses and these different postures that you find yourselves in, whether that's a stretch in the neck or a stretch in the entire body. The invitation is to seamlessly transition your intentional and present moment awareness to that particular stretch. Thus, every movement becomes an opportunity to cultivate awareness and discernment. Second, mindful yoga invites us to become more familiar with the sensations in our bodies. As we engage in different poses, as we move from one posture to the other, can we invite ourselves to just sense how that body part is feeling in this moment? What do you notice when you direct kind and compassionate attention to that body part during that stretch? With mindfulness, even the simplest yoga poses can promote greater intimacy with and appreciation for one's body. And as we start to attend to all sensations that are present for us in a body part, we start realizing the interconnectedness of all other parts, even regions that are not involved. Thus noticing that the body is one divisible whole in every moment. Here's the third reason. In mindful yoga, as we start paying attention to our field of sensations, just like in a sitting practice, we notice the stream of thoughts and emotions that come with it. What do we do with them? How do we relate to them? In our practices, we realize that our internal landscape includes the full spectrum of thoughts, sensations, and emotions, and mindful movement is no different. As we find ourselves in a particular pose, we allow ourselves to notice the entire field of awareness, inviting us to notice the connections between them. How do we go from a sensation in the lower back to a thought, to a negative emotion, and how that spiraling has the power to just take us away and even keep us away? Can we notice? Can we just notice and come back? This kind of awareness will allow us to become more intimate with our heart as well as our body. So perhaps thinking of your awareness like the sky that is always present, always blue underneath the powerful and thunderous clouds of emotions and thoughts. And once we start realizing the transient nature of clouds, the ever-changing and ever-moving nature of our emotions and thoughts, we can embrace the all-encompassing sky. The fourth reason to engage in this practice is that mindful movement allows us to also cultivate a deeper and more intimate relationship with our breathing. Now, we have been using the breath as an anchor for many of our sitting practices, noticing where we feel the felt sense of the breath. In mindful yoga as well, the breath is ever present and can serve as an anchor and a vehicle for helping us locate and feel the sensations in the body. So inviting your field of awareness to encapsulate not just the sensation of that pose, but also to include the in-breath and the out-breath with each pose. This can really allow you to feel the richness of your experience, feeling the sensation of renewal with each in-breath and release with each out-breath. Further, each release and each out-breath, an invitation to see if you can soften the area where you feel the tension, where you notice sensations of pain, and see if those sensations release and dissolve with the breath. And finally, these movements are also another opportunity to practice the specific attitudinal foundations of mindfulness meditation. Each pose, each felt sensation, an invitation to surround yourselves with the 9 pillars of mindful attitudes. As we're invited to move through the various configurations of poses, we do so from a place of non-striving. There really is no need to get into the best stretch or compete with others or our own idealizations of what we should be able to do or look like or feel like. Instead, we give ourselves over to experiencing things as they actually are in this very moment and drop into unconditional acceptance. And this work also invites us to trust our bodies, to know its limit, and thus letting the movement take over rather than you and your thinking mind taking over the movement. By trusting our bodies, by listening to our bodies, and our felt awareness of the various regions, we reduce the risk of injuring ourselves rather than be caught up in the endless noise of our own strivings. So, many reasons to practice mindful yoga. Well, thank you all for staying with us. And the purpose of this entire webinar just was to see and kind of invite you all to see how we can take this mindful awareness that we're cultivating in our sitting practices and bring it to movement. Now, yoga is one way in which we can do that. And later this week, we're also going to be posting a video on walking meditation. and we're walking all the time, even if we're getting up from the family room to go to the kitchen. And the invitation is, can we bring mindful awareness to our movements, to walking, to running? And to the extent that we're able to, we'll start seeing that we can seamlessly transition this enhanced awareness that we're developing into various aspects of our lives. And that's kind of the goal for why we're all here. So what we're going to do in the final moments of this 1-hour webinar is to kind of open up for question and answers. So any questions that you may have, either about this mindful yoga, the practices that you're all engaging in, we're happy to answer those questions right now. And then once we're done with that, I'll talk about what the invitation for next week is. So feel free to send your questions, and Megan can pass those to me. It seems like we've been answering a lot of your questions. So while we wait for people to type those up, just a few final things for next week. So the invitation in this past week was to engage in body scan practices and breath awareness practices. And what we're going to do is we're going to move a little bit further. And this week, you're invited to engage in breath awareness practices 3 times a week and mindful yoga twice a week. So on our YouTube channel, we have several variants of the breath awareness practice. We had one participant last week who asked if we could upload videos without the music, and we did that as well. And those are the spacious breath awareness practices, both a 30-minute version and a 15-minute version. And then you're invited to engage in mindful yoga. For now, we only have 30-minute versions that we've posted. One of them is a chair yoga, similar to what Megan just led us through. And the other one is the yoga on the mat. And we really invite you to trust your bodies, especially if you haven't engaged in too much stretching exercises, then these may be, some poses may be challenging for you. And with all of the lessons that we just went through and the teachings that we just went through, you're invited to trust your bodies for that. So 3 times breath awareness practices and twice yoga practices. But here it is, but we also have informal practices, and I'll get to the questions in just a minute. As we've talked about in these webinars, it's all about balance, right? Last week, we focused on the pleasant events in our lives, and we just talked about those. This week, you're invited to attend to the unpleasant events in your life. So just like the pleasant event, what do you notice when you see something as unpleasant? What is going on for you when you experience the unpleasant event? What do you become aware of in your bodies, in your thoughts, in your emotions? Just getting curious. So the invitation is to attend to unpleasant events. And the second informal practice is to bring mindful awareness to your movement. You may be just taking a walk around the block, or even if you're just going from your bedroom to the family room, inviting you to take those few steps mindfully. What are you aware of? What do you notice? So formal practices where you're engaging in these meditative practices, and then informal practices where we're trying to bring mindful awareness to all aspects of our living. So here are some questions that are coming our way. Will the YouTube videos be available to us after the sessions end? Absolutely. So they're always going to be there. And that was the intention behind releasing the channel, was to have those videos be always available. There was a question on a number of movements are milder versions of things I do to stretch. I take stretches to a particular bodily feeling. Does this constitute striving? Not particularly, if I understand your question correctly. I think you're just trying to be with that stretch and the feeling that stretch brings for you. And you'll notice when you're striving to really push yourself to get the best pose. And sometimes maybe that's what you need. But at other times, just relax. Let the movement do the work rather than all of the thinking that you have about the movement. We had a question about somebody talking of persistent thoughts and saying, I don't have persistent thoughts, but I do have lingering feelings. How do I stop the negative feelings of dread or foreboding? And I think just like thoughts, in a couple of weeks, we're going to make the webinar is all about sensing and feeling the thoughts and emotions. How do we relate to them? Everything that's showing up. What do we do with them? And right now, the invitation is to just be curious. The thoughts are there, just like we talked about the clouds, right? Clouds come and they go. And see how your feelings are. Are they permanent or are they transient? Get curious about them and just see if you can allow them to be without getting caught up in the story of that feeling. Just notice what sadness feels like. What does anxiety feel like? Where do you notice it in your body? Not the story behind the sadness, not what brought on the sadness, just the bare sensation of sadness. There was a question on if I'm going to post a video of this webinar. If it records right this time, I will. We've had troubles with recording, and even when the recording happens, parts of it are choppy. So if it's a smooth video, I'll be happy to post it on the YouTube channel. And a final question, is it possible through practice to get our minds to instruct tense muscles to release? I think instruct is a strong word, right? We're trying to just see, can we soften? Can we notice the tension? Sensation, just like a thought, just like an emotion, is transient. I often use this analogy of an itch. You know, as soon as we get an itch, we just scratch it. But what happens if you don't scratch it? You notice the frustration. You notice that you really want to scratch it, but just letting it be. And just in a few moments of sitting with that itch, you realize it's gone. Now, it's hard to do that with powerful sensations. I've done a lot of work with people who suffer serious chronic pain. How do you work with those very powerful sensations? And just with continued practice, we start beginning to notice the transiency of these sensations. We notice that they too change and they too can soften. And for some that happens, and for others it doesn't. And the idea is, can we just show up to that for now? We're a little bit over time, and I respect all of you joining in for this webinar. I really appreciate it. And as I said, the invitation for this coming week are formal practices on mindful yoga and breath awareness, and informal practices on mindful movement, as well as watching unpleasant events. Our next week's webinar is going to be on a very important topic, not that all of these aren't important, but mindfulness and stress. How can we see if we can bring mindfulness to stressful events? Thank you again for all of your time and for joining me, and I hope to see you all next week. Thank you.